So, DreamWorks finally released the trailer for the new live-action How to Train Your Dragon movie. It seems they finally decided to toss their hat into the race of the whole live-action movie craze that Disney has been abusing for years now. I definitely have a few thoughts on the movie as a whole, and I will get into it more into the video as it goes on. But more than anything, what I really want to discuss is Hollywood's insistent need to turn every single animated movie in the world into a live-action movie. I have thoughts, a lot of thoughts on this topic. So without wasting any more of your time, let's get into it. So firstly, I'm just going to get it out of the way, and seemingly as this was the whole thing that sparked the idea of the discussion about live action and animated movies as a whole, and that is the How to Train Your Dragon live action movie itself. My initial thoughts after seeing the trailer were as follows. It looks pretty decent. However, I will say that if I have to judge this in comparison to some of the other live action movies that are out there, it looks a lot better than most, but that's not really saying much. On the positives, I will say the dragons look great. So, you know what, DreamWorks, you're going out of your way to do something really cool. I'll give you your props. And hey, it doesn't look all that drab. You know what? There's actually color. That's crazy. If only Disney could know that you could add color to a live action movie. Wow, crazy stuff. The casting is whatever to me. I don't really think any of these guys stand out. I think Hiccup looks solid, and I think Stoic also looks solid. Outside of that, I think the rest of the cast is kind of meh. However, I will say that I think this movie will do pretty good, especially with the casual audience. Look, I'm very biased, and I know I am. I love animation. I love everything having to do with animated movies, TV shows, the works, but I also understand that not everyone feels that way. I understand that there are a lot of people out there that don't really take animated movies all that seriously, and for whatever reason just refuse to watch them as a whole. Whether that's because they believe animated movies to be something that's solely for kids, or maybe they're just not interested at all in anything that has to do with animation. Who could say? But I understand that there's a huge audience that feels that way, and something like this would be very appealing to them. I could definitely see this movie doing pretty well. If we have to really break everything down, it's looking like it's a one-for-shot remake of the original animated movie. Again though, I don't know why you'd want that when the animated movie's right there. That's 10 times better in every single way, shape, and form, but whatever. What I am saying is that if you're doing a one-for-shot remake of the entire animated movie, that is pretty much the blueprint for success. The How to Train Your Dragon franchise as a whole has way beyond proven itself to be something that is everlasting as probably one of the greatest trilogies of all time. So you're 100% guaranteed to get a good story basing the movie off of that. So my basic thoughts here are, I think this is a waste of your time. I genuinely don't see a reason why anyone would watch this over just watching the animated movie. I just don't see the appeal. However, I am not blind, and I know a huge swath of people that would love to watch something like this. So I can genuinely see this actually doing well, maybe even being one of the few live actions to cross 1 billion. I think it could be possible. If there had to be one movie that would do it, it would be this. Again though, I don't see the appeal, but I understand. Now with that out of the way, for me the real crux of this issue is that I just genuinely believe that live action is inferior to animation. That's it. I fully believe that in every single way, shape, and form, in every single example that I've seen, a live-action adaptation has done severely worse in every metric in comparison to its animated counterpart. If I have to look at every single animated movie that's come out in the past few years, almost a decade now, I think they've all done severely worse than the animated version. Whether that be changes within the story itself that add no meaningful narrative purpose, or just feel like added bloat for the sake of bloat, adding songs into the new adaptation that completely do not fit with what the original animated works intended for the film and feel drastically out of place, to just the movies themselves looking so visually uninteresting. I'm sorry for a lot of people that need to hear this, but movies that are made in live action are made that way for a reason, and movies that are made in animation are made that way for a reason. There's a certain level of exaggeration that can only really be realistically achieved by animation and cannot be replicated in real life. Unfortunately, we as human beings have limitations, and so does reality itself. But guess what doesn't have any limitations whatsoever? Animation. Whether that's watching something as simple as character falls from great heights and falls straight through the floor only to get up 10 seconds later as if nothing happened, from talking animals that are going on a cross-country adventure while trying to escape the police that can run through walls and is an absolute unit of a woman. And all that would feel completely natural and no one would question it because that's animation. Animation has the power for people to suspend their disbelief. People would see something that would happen in an animated movie and series and it's something that is completely unrealistic and would never happen in real life, but because it's in an animated format, it completely makes sense in that world and just completely is believable to them. Something that would feel super unnatural in live action because we as people know what things should look like. We know what people should look like, what animals should look like. So when we see something that isn't right, we're immediately hyper aware of it and hyper aware that it looks wrong. Even if you can't tell what it is, it looks wrong. Even something as simple as getting the best poses and expressions that allow them to put on the best performance for that character. If this was a live action movie, the director would have to try to do his best to get the actors themselves to put on the best performance that they can get out of them. However, if this is animation, you can just make every single character have the best performance possible every single time. Why? Because you have control over what happens on the screen. Animation has this way of not only allowing us to suspend our disbelief of what is happening on screen, but fully allowing us to envelop ourselves in these beautiful and fantastical worlds. Animation is a powerful medium and is one of the best ways for people to express their art, to express themselves through beautiful on-screen visuals. Animation as a medium far surpasses anything that can be achieved in real life. Animation itself as a concept is to go outside of the bonds of reality. There are no limits as to what animation can achieve, as to what it could do, as to what it could be. Every single animated project is always something new and something interesting. That isn't to say that there aren't bad animated movies, there aren't bad animated projects, there are plenty. But what I'm trying to get at is something as simple as Into the Spider-Verse could never be achieved in reality. It is literal art in motion. It is impossible for you to ever achieve something like that in real life. Why? Because it goes beyond reality, beyond what is achievable, beyond the confines of what this world has to offer. Animation has the unique ability to shape reality to whatever it desires. That is something that is so special and so unique solely to animation. So whenever I see a live action adaptation that comes out, I always feel disappointed because I know it will never live up to the animated version. My problem is it doesn't matter how good that movie is or series or whatever. If it is basing itself off of an animated version, it is always inferior in every single way, shape, and form. That doesn't mean it can't be good. It just means it will never be as good as its animated counterpart. Hollywood seems to be going on this downward spiral of continuing to push out live action after live action after live action. Whether that be the recently announced How to Train Your Dragon live action, or the Moana remake that for some reason is happening even though Moana's like only a few years old. I don't understand that, but okay. To something like Invincible even throwing its hat into the race of the live action game. It's just a no. I understand why Hollywood is doing this. I understand why these live actions are being made. Not only do a lot of them have a proven track record for success, they come with a pre-built fan base that you don't have to necessarily make for yourself and can kind of leech off of that, as well as making new ones as well. And it just being something that is very low risk to make and could possibly have a decent chance at being successful. I fully understand why Hollywood is jumping on the bandwagon. I fully understand why a large audience is also jumping on the bandwagon. However, just because I understand doesn't mean I think it's good. Doesn't mean I think it should be something that is accepted. It shouldn't be the norm that every single animated movie that at some point down the line will get a live action remake. That is not the point of an animated movie. If it could have been done in live action, it should have just been done that way in the first place and never been animated, ever. It was animated for a reason, because that was the vision for the original work. You changing that vision only distorts it. It doesn't enhance it. Now, to just close everything up, I'll say this. When was the last time you went back and actually watched any of those live action movies that came out in the last decade?
Don't worry, I'll wait.
The crux of the issue is that a lot of these live action adaptations are forgettable. As soon as the year passes, they've entered the memory hole and you've completely forgot that they even exist. The majority of these movies are quite literally visual junk food. They have no substance, and just as easily as they've come into this world, so too shall they leave. But with that being said, I've been Casual Randall. I hope you were entertained. I hope you enjoyed your stay. And until next time, it's bye-bye for now, boys.